Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, political fighters, and welcome to the July 30th, 2026 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com and follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, the great Patty Vasquez, driving it home, and, of course, Edwin Eisendrath. It's a democracy, stupid. Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews. And in the evenings, by all means, make sure you are paying attention to the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show. I'm probably going to be hanging out with the folks in the Politics Bar today, so check that out later on. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Lots of good new articles that are up. I'll give you a couple quick ones to check out. Michigan gubernatorial candidate and U.S. Representative John James, Republican. He's one of those black Republicans that Eric Grant was talking about on Sunday, says President Donald Trump won 3 times in Michigan. Trump lost in Michigan to Joe Biden in 2020. That's just, there you go. Just so you know, guys. I don't know. He must have gotten a bad batch of something when he was younger. I could really tease him, but I'll be kind. Make sure you check out heartlandsignal.com. We have a busy morning, so I won't dilly-dally around. There. Today's show, our guest here on today's show, we will be talking with Anusha Thadakora, who will be with us shortly, right after the first break, to talk a little bit about what's happening with education and CPS and all the good things that are going on with school board governance here in Chicago and throughout the state of Illinois. She's an expert in that space, so looking forward to chatting with her. And then in studio with me will be Enrico Mowatt and Rick Kasprzak, names that you guys know. They've been on the show a number of times, and that might be part of our upcoming future to see these guys here on a regular basis. They are two of a great guest host to hang out with us today, but two of my very, very, very best friends who are very, very politically astute, socially and economically astute. So we'll want you guys to call in, dial us. We will chat. We'll get you on. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, Shaughnessy Naughton will be here. Shaughnessy is the president of 314 Action. And given all that's going on in the conversation around science and engineers and people that know a few things about a few things, it'll be great to have her on to talk about all that's happening in that space. But I'm sure we'll probably land the plane talking a little bit about how a particular 85-year-old scientist was treated with such disrespect yesterday, in that being Dr. Anthony Fauci. Kelda Royce is running for, he's a Wisconsin state senator that's running for the candidate for governor in Wisconsin, Democratic candidate for governor. She'll be with us in the 7:30 hour. So looking forward to chatting with all of our guests, and certainly having Rick and Enrico on this morning to push this train down the track. Will be kind of cool. For those listening to WCPT, today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to Amanda Marcotte, senior writer at Salon.com, and our latest piece is the MAGA-ification of Hollywood is going to be so boring. That's so true. Professor Stephen Schwinn of the University of Illinois Chicago Law School, Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, and Heartland Signal's Rich Eberwine with 3 stories you might have missed from our digital newsroom that is also known as heartlandsignal.com. Live, local, and progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And for my listeners tonight, for our listeners, I should say, WCPT, driving it home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest co-host Dr. Kathy Tynas, internist at Alivio Health Services, and their guests include Dr. Shika Jain, board-certified hematology and oncology physician and associate professor of medicine at the University of Illinois Cancer Center here in Chicago. Bill from Olive's Neighborhood Garden, I always get that wrong, an award-winning nonprofit garden in the Jefferson Park neighborhood here in Chicago, providing fresh produce delivered weekly to local food banks. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCBT. Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube and Facebook. And then tomorrow on Choose Views, Karen Byrne, who is a co-host of True Blue Politics podcast, will be with me. Amy McDonald, host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald podcast, and Dr. Professor of Everything History driven is Professor Kevin Schultz from the University of Illinois Chicago, and the author of Why Everyone Hates White Liberals, including white liberals. So there you go. That's the lineup for the next today and tomorrow for all of our shows. Thank you always, guys, for being with us. Staying on track, because like I said, we are moving this train pretty fast this morning, is our question of the day. And I'm just going to put it out there regarding yesterday's hearing. For those of you who caught it or caught clips of it, what are your thoughts and feelings about Dr. Fauci's testimony? Obviously, he took the fifth, as it were, on a number of occasions. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. Give us a call. We'll get it on today. We got time with Rick and Rico being with us in a little bit. And go to our Facebook page and leave your comments there, as well as send us a text so we can try to read that on the air about what your thoughts are about Dr. Fauci's testimony yesterday. All inclusive, everything that you saw and heard about the questions that were asked, the responses, and all the rest. It was quite I've seen a lot of people. Lawrence O'Donnell kind of probably covered the best, saying it was one of the most disappointing, disgusting, horrible things he's seen in a while. But there you go. Republicans needed to have a little pomp and circumstance and kind of, spread their plumes because they got nothing else to do right now. Let's hit it with a couple of quick Choose Views news items, and then we're going to go to this first break so that we're ready for when Nusha joins us. Choose Views here, July 30th, 2026. Visa lays off 7% of staff in a renewed efficiency push. Ahead of their reporting their third quarter earnings this week, they announced about 7% layoff, roughly 2,600 people. That's a plan that they did not anticipate, but it's where they're going forward. And Coca-Cola grows their volume across the board in a standout quarter. They shrugged off the tailwinds, slowing competitors like PepsiCo to surpass their Wall Street expectations in the second quarter that they announced yesterday. The beverage giant beat earnings and revenue while raising its yearly outlook. Net sales climbed 7% to $13.38 billion, and the global unit case sales rose by 5%, which sparked across-the-board increases that they're reporting currently. The Fed is looking at keeping the rate steady as inflation concerns are persisting. And that's the decision that was made in their July meeting, with policymakers acknowledging that inflationary pressures remain elevated. The decision to keep the benchmark rate at 3.5 to 3.75% was not unanimous, with 3 of the 9 committee members dissenting in favor of a rate increase. In a statement, the FOMC said that while inflation is still above the central bank's 2% target, the committee will deliver price stability. All right. And the U.S. is to end subsidies for Medicare's Part D program, which we'll talk about. The Trump administration is ending a subsidy program that makes prescription medications more affordable for seniors on Medicare. About 25 million people have Part D drug coverage plans supported by these subsidies, and they pay an average $36 a month. Nearly half of those enrollees will see their premiums go up $11 to $20 next month, per month next year, I should say, according to an administration official, while another 30% will see less than $10 more per month. The premiums have been on the rise thanks to large in part to the proliferation of expensive medications like GLP-1s. But, you know, Donald, why would you do that? Why would you do that to seniors, a group of voters that historically is kind of voted for Republicans? That's just kind of what the numbers show. And to jam them up with taking away a benefit, a subsidy, folks that benefit from that should never vote for a Republican ever again, because the Republicans are all behind this. That's how they're hurting you guys. It's not the Democrats. It is not the Democrats that are hurting senior voters or senior citizens, senior consumers. It's always Republicans, because they take away things that allow, after all these years of hard work and commitment, they then start to take away things that you need to make your life better, or not just to survive, but to thrive, as the phrase goes. So you know what? It's real simple. Older voters, just stop voting for Republicans. At least Democrats aren't trying to take stuff away from you. They're trying to put more into the bucket rather than take the entire bucket away. Republicans aren't even trying to put more in the bucket. They just want to take the damn thing away from you. So just stop voting for them across the board. They're not helping you. They really aren't. Who's gotten legislation passed on a local, state, and federal level to help seniors? It's always Democrats. So stop voting for Republicans, because they're not helping you. All right, let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us this morning. Yeah, so just it's disappointing to see something like this when it comes to the benefits. I'm hoping that we can find a way. What's probably going to end up happening is this: the states are going to have to step up to try to help. In this case, with the prescription drug reductions and the subsidies. It's just unfortunate, but that's kind of where we are. And I'm really hoping that, hoping is the wrong word. I'm confident that whatever Democratic governors can do, they're going to do, and that House or Senate members that are Democrats in various states are going to do what they need to do. But ironically, in many of the places that this is going to have some of the biggest harm, it happens to be red states, because of the propensity of folks who utilize this benefit and these subsidies that happen to be, in red states. It's just a mathematical fact. But the disappointment of it is that the repeat that keeps happening with Republican voters, seniors, if you will, they keep voting this way. The evidence is clear. Democrats are not trying to take these things away from Republicans. Democrats have historically and recently made it clear that we want to do everything we can to support benefits being built up, beefed up, strengthened. So hopefully, and I don't go down the hope path too often, but in this case I will, because it's just a direct attack on people who. And many of those people who are going to be impacted by this voted for Donald Trump, voted for the Republicans, and unfortunately have continued to do that. So we as progressive liberal Democrats have got to work really hard to help them understand that we did not stab you in the back on this one. But there you go. All right. Looks like our guest, who is one of the best voices when it comes to what's going on with public schools at large, and very specifically here in Chicago and Illinois. But welcome to the show this morning, our good friend, Anusha Thadakara. Good morning, Anusha. Welcome back to Choose Views. How you doing this morning?
Good, Richard. How are you?
I'm good. I know that we got a few minutes, and I wanted to make sure we give you the maximum amount of time to talk about what's going on with CPS. Specifically, in a larger way, what's going on with some of the governance of public education and so forth here in Chicago and the state of Illinois. What's happening in your world?
Well, today we are going to be presented with a budget to vote on, and this budget is the result of months and months of hard work from CPS and stakeholders trying to close this deficit. And we've seen what's been on the chopping block with thousands of positions either being closed or people experiencing layoffs, schools experiencing cuts to their budgets, essential programming, like after school programming being cut by 50% in this budget. Furlough days, which have been entertained and now seem like the district is going to revise their proposal to reverse the furlough days. And the budget also includes mid-year hiring freeze, spending freeze, all things that our students are going to feel at the classroom level. But this is not something that's a surprise that we woke up with news of overnight. We have a structural deficit at CPS that is that's going to cause long-term harm to our students if we don't advocate for the progressive revenue that we need to fill our budget gap.
So who's getting in the way locally and statewide of having this happen? Who's actually, or what entities, I should say, not necessarily an individual per se, but what entities are getting in the way of this getting done?
I think this is a question of political will, right? And it's amongst all of the stakeholders. If you ask someone, do you support funding for public schools? They will say yes, because to not say yes is a slap in the face to parents and students and community members that care about the public education of our kids in the city. But when you ask them, what have you done to actually bring funding to Chicago public schools or any public schools across the state for that matter, because they're all not fully funded at this time, we're met with silence. And that is not good enough. Earlier this year in May, we at the board passed a resolution that calls on the state to pass progressive revenue by taxing billionaires and large corporations, which is an issue that we've discussed a lot on your show, to fund our schools, amongst the many other things. Today's the anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare, 61 years. We need funding for Medicaid, given the cuts at the federal level. But back to that resolution, when we pass it on the school board, you would think that people who are supposed to be charged with being responsible stewards of our school system would care about funding for schools. It did not unanimously pass. So I could talk about the school board members who are not on board for progressive revenue for our schools, but we can't make the revenue appear ourselves. We have very, very limited taxing authority. So in Illinois, where we have the 8th most regressive tax system in the entire country, we need to call on our state lawmakers to deliver the progressive revenue that we need for our students. So that's going to take state legislators, many of whom this week have come out in support of additional funding for our schools. Even yesterday, I'm sure that you saw Speaker Welch committing to working to find additional funding. Senator Harmon saying something that I found optimistic about working to find resources for our students. And it really takes political courage, because if you're not willing to stand up and fight for funding for our schools at this time, our students are going to lose out. And we can't just say, why don't we just wait until next year or the year after, as if students' education for this upcoming year is not an investment that's worth every single minute and dollar that we can push for.
You know, Anusha, thank you for that. I merge a couple of things that are going on. We recently saw this conversation around the alders blocking the mayor's attempt to say to the citizens, the voters, do you want to see taxing the wealthy, et cetera, at a different rate on as part of a ballot initiative? And they said no. And then we've got state officials who were like, well, I don't know if we should really. So what comes back to me is how deeply are those businesses and those entities that would be taxed at a greater rate, how deep are their hands in the pockets of not only the alders, but also some of the state officials, left and right?
That's a great question. I will say that one thing to celebrate is from Springfield this session, legislators passed a digital ads tax on advertisers like Facebook, Amazon, Google, that is going to generate $700 million for the state of Illinois. That is money that we can use to fund our schools. That is money that we can use to fund healthcare. It's currently being litigated, so intentionally lawmakers didn't put it in the budget for this year, knowing that it could be in the courts for a little bit before we can count on it for revenue. But that is great. That's the right direction that we need to move in, and our state legislators need to be thanked for that work, also called on to do more.
Yeah.
City Council, Hey, Richard, this was an advisory question on the ballot. Simply an advisory question. So the fact that alders were unwilling to have an advisory question on the ballot, to me, that doesn't speak to special interest, because you know that if you put an advisory referendum about taxing rich people on the ballot in the city of Chicago, that will be overwhelmingly favorable. It's important to know at what level that still is and to engage people on this issue. But to see that being blocked in one of the most progressive cities in the country, and alders refuse to let their constituents vote on whether or not we should tax the rich, it's because they don't want to be held accountable to that after. They don't want to be told the people in your ward want you to tax rich people and you're refusing to do it. So that is why they're blocking the advisory referendum. And there's a very clear mismatch in city council between people's wards and the values that they reflect with their votes. And I could not think of a clear example on an advisory referendum about whether or not to tax millionaires at a higher level.
Particularly when those are the people that are going to benefit and directly and indirectly from that happening. And it would actually take some stress off of the alders in city council, and then take some stress off of state legislatures to allow that to be the case. But I didn't want to assume I knew where you sat in the room on that, but I had a pretty good idea, and I wanted to get your expertise. What else you got going on as we wrap up? Because we know we got limited time this morning.
Yeah, today is the 61st anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare, landmark programs that have allowed for people, millions and millions of Americans, to have access to life-saving health care. And it's also a little over a year since the big ugly bill was signed into law by Donald Trump, which rips away Medicaid and SNAP benefits from people who need it most. So today we are celebrating the anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare across the state. This morning, Chicago, 10 a.m. in Federal Plaza, also doing an event in Springfield with Congressman Budzinski, and later today in Murfreesboro outside of Congressman Mike Boss' office, and he voted to defund Medicaid and SNAP. And it's important that we talk about how can we not just reverse these cuts, but how can we actually build on these programs to build a healthcare system that works for all of us? Because even before last year, before the big ugly bill passed, people already could not afford their premiums. They could already not afford their prescription drugs. People already had medical debt. So we want to hear from people, why is this important to you, and how can we build a healthcare system that works for all of us? If you're available, join us at Federal Plaza today at 10 a.m.
Anusha Thadakora, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Go get him. We are always here. Got your back. Say hey to Representative Budzinski and tell her we got to get her back on the show. Talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Richard. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, the trio will be here. The band is back together. Enrico Mowatt, Rick Kasprzak, and I will be with you. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us. I'm Richard Chu. And thanks to Anusha Thadakora for being with us as well. She's going to be a busy lady today. But in studio, of course, are my two road dogs, Rick Kasprzak and Enrico Mowatt. Good morning, fellas. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Richard.
Which one are you talking to?
Yeah.
You know what?
I know. Which of the three?
I know. Which of the? You know what? I'm talking to you. You're Richard. He's Rick.
That's right. That makes it easy, actually.
Yeah,
We'll never get that wrong.
No,
right?
Never.
The three R's, the three D's, on and on.
Just call it the ruckus.
The ruckus.
The ruckus.
Yeah. Yes.
I like
yes.
that.
Yes.
I like that.
So I take it you guys have been doing well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Been a good busy summer so far.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Yeah.
Lots of things going on.
Weather has been nuts.
Weather's been insane.
The rain, for those who are running around that have been saying for the longest time, you Dems, you Libs are all like, this weather stuff, this climate change. Really? I've been around long enough. You and I both have been around long enough, all three of us, to know it wasn't like this when we were teenagers or in our early 20s.
Soggy, cool July? Never.
No,
Never seen it.
Yeah, you
Filled with smoke?
Filled with smoke.
right. But you know, Rick, I'm sorry, but it's your fault for having friends in Canada, and Donald Trump's gonna tariff them to death because
I've let them know.
Because Rico wouldn't go up there and take his big fan and move
Exactly.
all the bad smoke up to Greenland.
Yeah. And again, when that happened a little over a week ago, I was just thinking about movies. I'm like, I cannot live in a post, apocalypse in terms of world. I would hate to see that be the case where the sky is a haze and just uncomfortable. It was just weird.
Well, and I actually thought, oftentimes you see pictures in China when they have bad pollution days, and that's exactly what it looked like to me.
But we don't have a climate issue, guys.
No,
You're right. I forgot.
What's wrong with people?
No.
We don't have a climate issue.
No, it's
No
made
issue.
up. It's manufactured. It's fake news.
Yeah.
The Democrats are controlling with space lasers. They're controlling the weather, and
I'm sure that they'd be saying, "Oh, it's not that bad out."
go outside and suck in those particles.
Yeah.
Go do a 5K along the lakefront. You're fine.
Burn your lungs a little bit. See how it feels.
Yeah.
But you got to give it up to our city. Our city of Chicago is once again standing loud and proud. We've had some great events, as we always do during our spring and summer, and the streets are busy as hell. Folks are out. We love seeing it.
Yep.
I was just saying to my wife Ann, who you guys know very well, that it's crazy busy in the city, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see.
It's a good sign.
It's a good sign,
It's
right?
a great sign.
Isn't it?
Economically,
It's a great
a
sign.
good sign. It's a good sign that people are getting out and meeting each other, and patronizing the outdoor restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
My partner and I were on Division and Damon 2 weeks ago. We had not been there for a really long time. I could not believe the number of people just walking on the streets, kids, infants, dogs, and everybody. All of the outdoor cafes were just packed.
Yeah.
Chicago
So it was good.
Chicago is really at its best when everyone can appreciate it.
Yeah.
From those that live there to those that live around the city, and then those that are coming to visit. And it's just amazing. So yeah, to your point, when it's vibrant, it's at its best, and that's a great thing.
Yes, I know. I'm loving that a lot. So I know that probably the elephant. There's a couple of elephants in the room. I talked about how Trump just targeted the Medicare program for seniors, and that's a trickle. The impact is a trickle down like nobody's business because of the people who benefit from those subsidies. That when they go away, it doesn't just singularly impact that person who's receiving it. It impacts everybody in their world. And if their person is on some version of a fixed income or whatever we want to call it, and now they've got to reach deeper in their pocket to cover some, in many cases, life-saving medications, now that may impact their family. Rico, you guys talk about this.
I think what we're unfortunately going to see, Richard, because we do see it a little bit now already, but a lot of these seniors who are just getting by, when you have a 10% or a 20% increase, that makes a huge difference to them. And what they will end up doing is cutting in half their prescribed dosages just to get by, thinking that will work. And it's really, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
These doctors prescribe medications at the dosage that you're supposed to take.
Based on the condition that you have, based on your
exactly.
physiology.
And so I really worry about that. And as a senior myself, this does, it hits home.
Yeah.
It hits home. And I'm a participant in Medicare, and my gap plan has gone up about 35% this year. Yeah. I just got notification that effective August 1st, it's going to go up, and it's hitting everybody across the board, and we have nobody to blame but this current administration.
That's right,
and it's making people have to make forced choices. You talked about people and their families. First and foremost, if you're the person that's on Medicare, you have to decide, okay, am I going to pay my light bill or am I get my medication?
Yes.
Am I going to get groceries? Am I going to pay my rent or my mortgage or medication? And then to that other point, if you have to take a lesser dose that's prescribed, then family has to be involved, maybe because of the side effects of the consequences to your health, to one's health. Right. So it's really putting people in a bind. And to your point, which you made earlier, which I talked about a while ago on the show, about how, these rural areas and who they're, people have voted for them. Mm-hmm. People have voted for, and they're going to be the ones that are likely and most affected.
Yep.
Red states, rural areas, people that didn't have the wherewithal to understand the consequence of emboldening this and putting in this administration into power.
Right. Yeah. It's the thing that makes me, and you guys, we talk about a lot of things personally in our personal conversations. It's the people who sit back and say that we were the ones that were wrong and that we didn't know what we were talking about, and that we were trying to do things that were going to destroy the country's, fabric and all these other words that
democracy,
right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what is so critically important, and I say this so many times on the show. I know that people will criticize Democrats, and we should, because it's about strengthening our team. That's how I look at it. But at the same time, name me a time, Republicans, on any level, name me a time where Democrats made a conscious decision to rip away a benefit that was going to that was helping people in its current format. Maybe it needs to be strengthened and made a little bit more robust. But to take like I said earlier, the entire bucket away, I can't think of a time in my 64 years that has happened by Democratic administrations, certainly on a federal level, where these programs then have the trickle-down effect to the states. Mm-hmm. And like Anusha just said a moment ago, then the states and the local municipalities have got to ramp themselves up to deal with it. Yep. And then what happens is, to the other part of that reflection, Rico, to your point about the rural communities, is the non-rural communities, the suburban and the urban communities have to pick up the slack. But guess what happens? Then the budgeting that they have in place for all the other things gets impacted negatively. So then the people in that blue community are now ticked off because benefits that they were having access to have been shortened. That's what I meant when I said earlier, the trickle down, the negative trickle down of this it's right there. It's not something that it's a guess.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's predictive if you kind of just take a step back and look at it and recognize how this could go down. But people voted for it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, because I was thinking about that a couple days ago, where when I get into discussions with both political parties, I cannot think of one time where the Democrats have implemented a policy where it has negatively affected the majority of the country. I can't think of one, but I can think of 10 easily on the GOP side. Yeah, and especially in this MAGA world we're living in.
Yeah, it is that. I think that's. To talk about campaigning for a second, for anybody that's running, and I've said a couple different things. Anybody that runs on when we're back in power, there's some folks that are going to jail. That runs uses that kind of wording. Right. Amy McGrath, and I've said this before. She's former fighter pilot that's run for office down in Kentucky. She's been on the show a few times, and a real national voice. Amy has said it's about affordability and accountability. It's not just about affordability. It's got to be about both. And I agree with her in that space. Yeah. The other thing that I think is a good campaign message is show me in the last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, where Democrats have put policies in place that have hurt you, and show me where Republicans have. Or what a tighter version. What you said is a much tighter version, Rick. But yeah, show it. Show me. On a debate stage, how bold would it be for anybody running for office to say, Well, show me where your party, show me where our party has put something in place that's taken away benefits for America, the most of Americans, and make the Republican candidate stand and deliver. They'll stand there, they'll be babbling and da-da-da-da-da-da, and they'll try to come up with the garbage.
They'll try.
And then pivot and go, so let me list you 5 that your party.
Exactly. And all you have to do is, instead of pointing the finger at the Democrats, say, listen, here are the most egregious policies that have affected, most of America in the past, whatever number of administrations or that the GOP has passed. Now, can you tell me which ones the Democrats have put into place that have had this kind of effect? And that's it. And it's like, and my favorite 2 words, I'll wait.
Yeah. Or go.
Right. Go. And just see what someone says, and they're going to be dumbfounded.
Yeah.
And when they have no retort, when they have no comeback, it's and from a strategy standpoint, that's what the Democrats have to start doing. There's got to be a pack out there. There's got to be someone with deep pockets to just put out messaging to speak on. This is what's happening. You had a reality talk show host and Dr. Oz.
And other reality talk show. It's like
People.
Think about the number of people that are in the administration that have been either reality or talk show hosts,
right,
but without the credibility to be in the role.
And just simply put, here are the policies that they're about to affect. There should be messaging that's in social media, that's local TV, national. Just speak. This is what's going to happen to your benefits.
Yeah, and here, this is a good example. Kamala. By the way, all the people out there on the right and all the people who were skeptical and that didn't vote. And then we're going to go to a break. Kamala Harris did say that this would happen with regard to the program.
She said
a lot of things.
Everything that's happened has happened.
She and Hillary were right.
I was going to say, and you have to put Hillary in there too, because she
laundry listed. I say it all the time. That debate where she laundry listed. This is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Let's go to a break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's me. It's the Rickus. It's the Ruckus. We'll be right back. Man, we got some great producers here, don't we? Our guys put it down. Welcome back to Choose You, guys. I'm Richard Chu, and of course, hanging out with the Rickus, Rick Kasprzak, my great friend, and Enrico Mowatt, my other great friend. It's me and the boys. If you hear any noise, it's just me and the boys getting it. Parliament Funkadelic, in case y'all didn't know. All right, so listen. I'm glad I had to put a mask on. I'm proud to have walked around with a mask. I'm glad that I was able to get a vaccine that prevented me from getting sicker or passing on a condition that could have caused people that I love or people that I don't even know to get sick and potentially die. I'm actually very proud of that. And all the people on the right, whether they be commentators, news people, knuckleheads in the public sphere, and certainly politicians, Senate folk who on the right wanted to decide that they had nothing else to do than to try to grill an 85-year-old man who would have given his life. And while RFK was running around wherever he went, we go to Harvard, running around college, acting a damn fool. Yeah. The 85-year-old man was making sure that people who had been diagnosed with AIDS, when nobody else was willing to touch folks that had the condition that we didn't know much about, was working his behind off to make sure that they were able to find a better way. And most recently, did everything he could. And how disgusting of them! How disgusting of them to try to treat him the way that they did yesterday. I mean, and then Rand Paul, that punk blankety blank, kicking his attorney out, and that whole sort of peacocking moment. This is where I know there's a higher power. Because if you and me and a few others had been there, and even Mike just leaned in, had been there, there would have been some tables knocked over.
Yeah, there would have.
The way they treated him
Well, and
over what? Sorry, Rico.
it's been half a decade since that pandemic.
Can you believe that?
And,
No, it's hard to believe.
I cannot believe it. And not just that, there are first responders, there are nurses, there are doctors, there are families, there's a litany of factual information and experiences of people who lost loved ones, lost lives, who still have residual effects from the pandemic. And they're marginalizing it by picking on this 85-year-old man who all he did was just stick with the science. And it wasn't the script. It was, these are the scientific facts of what's going on.
Yeah. I have the utmost respect for Dr. Fauci being a member of the LGBT community.
Yeah.
And and to your point,
Which
Richard,
is also
how-
part of the reason why he could. So
exactly.
keep going, Rick.
Oh,
I'm
exactly.
sorry.
And he saw it through.
Yeah.
There were, you can say there were a lot of criticisms that we had during that time, but a lot of it had to do with government funding, and we know who was in office at that time. And so I have so much respect for this man who he has dedicated his life to government service within the medical community and making sure that our country is healthy. And because some whiny people didn't like wearing a mask, this is the level they brought this man down to. I mean, this should have been an opportunity to praise him for
Absolutely.
what he did.
They
And
could have said,
instead, they chastised him for every move he made. And the other thing too, with regards to science, we didn't know what was going on.
No.
What happened to the days where the citizens of this country say, well, you know what, we have to do our part.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I sit there and I look at the
Banner.
the banner on the wall, and it reminds me of like during World War II.
Absolutely. Do your part.
I mean, do your part. The country did their part. Instead, you had, 40% of the people just whining like they've never whined before about wearing a stupid mask.
And I saw some of the commentary that, like, Dr. Fauci caused my family's business to close and this, that, and the other. And I sat back and I told myself to not watch it because I knew I would have been, my blood pressure would have gone up to watch it, and I would have been so frustrated.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of it was performative. Rico, you talk about this a lot in terms of the performative nature of when people open their mouths. But a lot of this was performative, and that's the other part that's disgusting about it, because at the risk, at someone else's expense, Dr. Fauci had to sit and watch these fools. Josh Hawley, why don't you just come out of the closet?
Right.
First of all, and let's stop fronting in that space. Which
We're not taking him.
I don't blame him.
He's not allowed to the picnic, or the cookout.
He can't. No.
he's not coming.
Stay on that side of the street, dude.
No, you can't come over here. There's no rainbow over here for you.
That was cold blooded, wasn't it?
That was
cold blooded.
that was savage.
We're not taking him. We're not taking him, man.
No, we're not.
But I sit back and I think about this, and where was all this vitriol over their boy who lied to, was it Bob Woodward on that when he had him when he was on tape, and he said, "Oh, this is really bad," and whatever Trump said, but he lied. He knew how bad it was.
Yeah.
And then he got it, and yet before the medical community having put in place the things that we all needed at that time, he would probably have died from it, given his age and other things that we may know about his medical conditions and all the rest. But he survived because of the things that folks like Fauci had put in place. And so then you get these fools sitting, and I'll tell you who needs to have a Thelma and Louise moment is Laura Ingraham. The pictures of her, the video of her sitting behind and rolling her eyes and all this other garbage, but she can go kick rocks. The people who were elected to these offices that sat there and interrogated him in the way in which they did were just flat out disgusting. And they're in comfortable states and districts. They'll get reelected, and their citizen, their voters will continue to kiss their behinds, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's who those voters are.
Yeah, that's who they are. And you know, the performative nature of what these politicians are doing is on par with strategy, plainly because it's about eliciting emotion. Because they're going to do things, they're going to curse, they're going to be, Bernie Moreno,
that was just like,
can you believe that?
Can I politically punch you in your face for that?
Like how
but yeah, we're the aggressive ones, we're the disgusting ones, we're the ones that don't follow decorum. But yeah, you're going to do that too. You're a newly elected senator, first-term senator, and you're going to go after Fauci like that, who is chronologically old enough to be your father.
And here's the thing: he's a first elected senator, and he's not going after Fauci like that. He's basically in the slipstream of the playbook, of the performative playbook of being crude, not non-tactical, like non-political, and speaking in every man language, every woman language, just to be appropriate, that fuels emotion, that his constituents can appreciate and understand, because they're not smart enough, because that's what they want. People, like, that's what that audience wants. They want emotional stuff.
Well, didn't we have a wrestling match on the White House's front lawn? This is how they're gonna play.
I feel
statesmen.
I feel like we're in pagan times. I feel like this is like Rome.
Yeah. So I know that when we have Shaughnessy on, we'll probably talk about the science part, because that's her thing with 314 Action. But before we go to this quick break, I'm just going to throw this out, and you guys can tell me. Now it's come out that the DOJ is compromised when it comes to Comey, and the Secret Service actually cooked the books. They knew that they had all the backstory and information around Comey and the seashells in the 8647, knowing that he had no idea, because he was interviewed. It's a cluster F.
Yep.
And the Secret Service is behind it. It was signed off by the senior level people in Secret Service and in the Department of Justice. Somebody needs. There's a scene in the movie. What's the movie with Will Smith where it's in D.C. He's an attorney. You know, Rico.
Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State. There's a scene in the movie where they're sitting in the conference room, and all the officials are sitting in there. You remember the one general says, somebody's going to blanking prison over this.
Yep.
Somebody needs to go to prison over this one, because they cooked the books on Comey with regard to this investigation. They knew. They they'd done the interviews. They talked to the people, and they said, "We don't care. We're going to go forward with this investigation anyhow."
Right. Yeah.
Somebody needs to be, as my father used to say, underneath the jail.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there was a Secret Service official that was quoted saying, "Yeah, legally this is a bad idea." He flat out said, "Legally this is a bad idea."
Yeah.
And they went forward with it anyway. Like you said, they cooked the books, and it's just like retribution, and it's retributionary theater.
That's it. That's what yesterday was. This hearing was retribution.
Yeah. Like let's beat up on an old man. Like
and I'll say this, and then we'll go to break. If Donald Trump had been truthful and got out and ahead, if he were a true leader and knew what the hell he was doing, I've said this a dozen times with regard to COVID, I dare say he would have gotten reelected.
You know it.
If he had said, you know what, y'all, this is messed up. We got to deal with this the right way and listen to the science, he might have gotten reelected in 2020. All right, guys, let's go to a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
If this was a legit op, and I can't possibly see how it could be, then so be it. But if this was somebody's unilateral wet dream, then that somebody is going to prison.
That's the clip we were talking about from Enemy of the State. And that's what should happen to whomever in the Secret Service or Department of Justice that authorized this further investigation into James Comey. In any event, we're having some fun this morning. We got a little Avengers. We got a little Enemy of the State. Rick and Enrico are with me this morning. And one of my favorite people when it comes to having smart people in the room is also with us. Our guest this morning, Shaughnessy Naughton, is the founder and president of 314 Action. And I think she's got something to say right now about having doctors and engineers and other people of science in politics. Good morning, Shaughnessy, and welcome back to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Great to be back with you.
Man, I thought about you. I was like, I guess the gods must have been working in our favor, of the higher powers, because when I saw that testimony yesterday, I'm going to throw you in deep in the pool with me and Rick and Rico. When I saw that testimony yesterday, I was like, see, this is the reason we have scientists involved, because you dumb MFers don't know what you're talking about. And just like, wow, Shaughnessy, what's been going on? Talk to us about what you saw and in the bigger picture of what's happening with 314 Action.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you just had to ask yourself, what was the point other than Rand Paul's crusade against Anthony Fauci? I mean, what did we learn yesterday when there are questions that should be answered, but we're not going to get them when we have, to quote you, idiot senators, that really are just not using their position to get us answers or, improve the lives of Americans. They're just using it for their own political witch hunt.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's what it was yesterday. It was all of that. And there's a place in hell for them for treating anyone, but particularly someone that was their primary goal, as Rico and Rick both said, who were with me in studio, was to try to help put Americans in a better position as best he possibly could. And yeah, there are questions. You're right. There's always going to be questions that need to be answered when it comes to something of this magnitude. But at the end of the day, you as a scientist and one that spends your life working to get more science and scientific people involved, this administration, prior Trump administration and current, has done one thing consistently, and that's work to take money out of programs that are designed to help in the field of research, to help in the field of making things better when it comes to health. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, and we're living through the results of that. I mean, this is an administration that, brought a chainsaw to government spending and cut investments in disease surveillance to help us prevent disease outbreaks like measles and cyclosporosis. They have cut funding to public health and our public health infrastructure, and then have really just done tremendous damage to our pipeline of innovation that comes from our investment in basic research. And we are seeing the results play out today in real time with these disease outbreaks, and we will see the results going into the future with lack of a viable pipeline for treatments and new drugs. And
tell me this, Shaughnessy, what do you think will be the time frame, if you can even put any time frame to this, of what it's going to take to get us back to where we were? I'll call it a Mendoza line of research and time and energy put toward health for the country. Have you thought about that? I guess maybe is a better question.
Well, it's really terrible to think about because, 7 million people lost their health insurance this year, and the number's only going to increase next year. A lot of people, can't even afford to pay their premiums. And this administration, rather than do something to address the skyrocketing costs of healthcare or the lack of access for so many people, are holding ridiculous hearings, rather than actually doing things to improve the lives of the American people, and what people have said over and over again. The Senate could have used that time yesterday to hold a hearing on the Epstein files, which it is pretty clear Americans want to hear about, but they don't do that because they don't want answers to that. They could hold a hearing on the massive corruption that this administration has at pretty much all levels, from advisory panels to cabinet secretaries and the president himself. They could hold hearings on why are we at war without a declaration of war. They do none of these things, and this is why it is so important that we elect a Democratic Congress this fall, because we need some accountability with this administration.
And accountability, I've said this, I'm quoting my good friend Amy McGrath, who says affordability and accountability has to be, where we are in this next Congress, making the assumption that we win back the House minimally and hopefully the Senate, because the trickle down of that is incredibly important, both in terms of affordability. It's going to allow for local governments to have hopefully have a little bit of ease, because some things can be put back in place. With new legislation that we can force to not have and make it be veto proof. That's kind of that's sort of, I guess, my wish list of, in addition to having the control of the House, we'll have the ability to put some things back in place or to stem the tide, as it were. The other thing that I think is important about this new Congress, if we were to win back both the House and the Senate, is that it will slow this train of recklessness down. And it'll slow it down with people that are part of who you're trying to recruit, in terms of bringing in smarter people or having more people in the mix, not just that are elected, but the people that are at the table when decisions are being made when it comes to planning. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We still are going to have a few more years of Donald Trump, but if we have a Democratic Congress, we can get things done. Democrats have shown when they are given the trifecta. They passed the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, the CHIPS Act, the Respect for Marriage Act. They passed legislation that improved people's lives. What has this administration and this Congress done? They passed a big, beautiful bill that gutted Medicaid, cut food stamps for people, and threw 7 million people off their health insurance. So I think there is a stark difference between what priorities Democrats bring versus Republicans, and I think the accountability side is incredibly important, because this is a cancer on our government that we have this lack of accountability, and it is, the fault goes directly to this Republican Congress. And I'll just point out, when we elect doctors and scientists and nurses like Lauren Underwood to Congress, they make a real difference. With all the noise and all the horribleness of this administration and this Congress, last week Congress unanimously voted for the NIH Improve Act, which is one of Representative Lauren Underwood's signature achievements, part of her omnibus, to reduce maternal mortality rates that are way too high in this country, and to target health deserts and disparities in our different populations. It passed unanimously. There aren't many things that pass unanimously from Congress, and this is what, when we elect people who know what they're doing, who bring the right values and priorities, things can get done.
Yeah, it's actually it makes such a difference when that mindset is in any elected office, whether it be on a local level, a state, or certainly in this case on a federal level. Shaughnessy, let's take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I want to talk about a little bit more about some of the candidates and some people that you've endorsed that are running, some that have won, so we can shed a little bit of light on them. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Shaughnessy Naughton of 314 Action. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Yeah, that's where we are. Choose Views here on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and all the other places. And you can stream it, you can listen, you can watch, you can like and share, all the things that you want to do with all of our shows. Rick Kasprzak and Enrico Mowatt are in studio with us this morning, which is just a real treat for me. And we're talking with Shaughnessy Naughton, who's the founder and president of 314 Action. Shaughnessy, help us understand some of the candidates. You mentioned Representative Lauren Underwood, who's right here in the great state of Illinois, and you've endorsed, and she's been really just a champion. But let's talk about some of the other people that you've recently endorsed that are running. The first one that comes to mind is Dr. Annie Andrews, but there's so many others that are running for state office as well as federal office. Share with us a little bit about that experience.
Sure. Yeah, we have our largest class ever of scientists and doctors running for House, Senate, and like you said, state and down ballot offices. We have endorsed over 400 scientists this year, and we expect many of them will be being sworn in next January. I'm very excited about Dr. Annie Andrews. She's a pediatrician running for U.S. Senate in South Carolina. Really got her started her involvement in politics as a gun violence advocate or gun violence prevention advocate,
right.
And is running in this really important race. Another scientist that I'm really excited about is Dr. Jasmine Clark. She is a state representative in Georgia. We helped elect her when she flipped a state house seat in Georgia in 2018. And earlier this year, when she put up her hand to run for Congress, we had worked with her throughout the years. And although we generally had a position to not go against incumbent Democrats, we said, you know what, we're in. It's time for a generational change. And she convincingly won the primary, didn't even go to a runoff, and she will be the first Black PhD scientist in Congress. So we're really excited about her, and it really tells the story of why it's so important to invest at the state and local level, because that there's really important work that needs to be done at the state and local level, but it also helps to build that pipeline of talent to the federal office.
Yeah, Dr. Saeed in Michigan is running for Senate, and he is, and it's a tight, tough race between he and Haley Stevens. Win, lose, or draw, the one thing that I will say about his campaign that he has been unapologetic about, but very effective, is talking about the importance of making sure we take care of folks from a health standpoint. He has been extraordinary. I would say I can't think of a person running for any office, Senate, House, state, governor, that's been more of a shining light on the importance of taking care of our healthcare systems than Dr. Abdul Saeed. And I think that we need to have, if the person doesn't win necessarily, we still need to have those voices in the races, because it forces the other candidates to talk about healthcare, to talk about science, to talk about the thing that we try to run away from in this country, which is dealing with the realities that we have some health issues. Give us your thoughts there.
Preach. I mean, this is what I say to candidates. Is, the basic math is most people who run aren't going to win. Think about how many people run for president, but only one gets to be president. But when you run a credible campaign and you talk about issues that are important to you and your community, you make a difference. Bernie Sanders never got to be president, but you can't say that he didn't change the focus of the Democratic Party, because he talked about issues that weren't being addressed. And Dr. Al-Sayed is doing that as well in Michigan. He was a health director, county health director. He worked on reducing medical debt and delivering eyeglasses to people and really focusing on what his community needed. And he is passionate and is being massively outspent, but is still able to, in most polls, polling ahead and garner tremendous amount of attention and support in Michigan and around the country.
Yeah, and it's been exciting to watch, because Going back to this conversation around the debacle with Medicare in terms of what Trump has targeted as of late, many of the people that are impacted by this change with Medicare that Trump is implementing or pushing forward are the same voters that voted for him in the previous election, 2 elections, and of course, in 2024. But ironically, what Dr. Syed is saying and who's showing up at many of his rallies are those people who recognize this person is speaking about the thing that we need to be addressing and that needs to be cared for, and that's Medicare and Medicaid. So again, this is why having those voices be part of the conversation are so incredibly important right now, don't you think?
Absolutely. And we need, I mean, we are going to have a lot of work to do to rebuild our safety nets, and certainly our public health apparatus. And we need people who are going to go to Congress and do the work and have, the life experience and really educational experience to have better insight into healthcare beyond just campaign applause lines.
Yeah, you with the candidates that are running and that you've been talking to and really trying to support over the last I'd say 12 months, we've had some wins and we've got some more on the horizon. What's I guess you could say your most broad statement that you're making to any candidate that's running and what you would like to see them be talking about when they're on the campaign trail? Because you have candidates that are running, or you've supported candidates that are not just in the medical field, but also in engineering and other areas of science. But what's sort of your broad statement? And I'm making an assumption that you have one for anyone that's in that space that's running.
Yeah, I mean, this election, one of the main issues for people is healthcare access and affordability. And as scientists and health professionals, they have a lot of credibility on issues that extend beyond just their fields of expertise. But talking about how we can bring down healthcare costs and what we can do in the next Congress to, get more people access to health insurance in our healthcare system, I think, is incredibly important. And that means, addressing a lot of different factors that go into driving the cost. But one of the things that they, can do, and if we have a Democratic Congress, is pass legislation to restore the health insurance subsidies that allowed millions of families to access health insurance. And I think they should couple that with, caps on deductibles and what people have to pay out of pocket. I think that's a really tangible and real thing that a Democratic Congress could deliver on. And then, thinking about in the long term of what we need to do to fix the system is incredibly important, but that will take a Democratic president to be able to sign that legislation. Yeah.
One last person that I think we cannot forget is Dr. Amy Acton, Dr. Acton in Ohio, that's running for governor. She's another big voice that has been extraordinarily been doing a great job, and we sure as hell hope that she wins in Ohio. The country needs that kind of leadership in the state that's kind of been a little bit off the rails politically these last couple of cycles. So hopefully that a doctor, her particularly, can be the one to win that race.
I think you hit it on the head when you say extraordinary. She is an extraordinary candidate running an extraordinary race. Ohio hasn't elected a Democratic governor in, I think, 20 years. But she is polling ahead of her Republican opponent, who might possibly be the least likable person in Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy. But he, what does it say when a candidate for governor, Vivek Ramaswamy's first 2 campaign ads did not have him direct to camera? I don't think I've ever seen that before.
I know, it's crazy. Shaughnessy, it's always great to have you on the show. I know you're busy as the world right now, but thank you for taking some time to hang out with us this morning. And we look forward to having you back again soon. Does that sound cool?
That sounds great. Thanks, Richard, and thanks, Rico and Rick.
There you go.
Thank you.
Shaughnessy Naughton, 314 Action, guys. You got to get with her and her team and the work that they do. They are just a powerful, powerful source. Thanks for being with us, Shaughnessy. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Guys, real quick before we go to break, your thoughts in terms of what she had to say.
She was spot on with everything, and I think it's an important mission. And it's interesting. I didn't get a chance to ask her this, but I was really curious because it's been 10 years since she launched 314 Action, and I'm wondering what were the reasons for launching? What was in anticipation of? Did you see what Trump was going to do? Because it was before his election,
right?
Because it was in June, and then the world changed around her. So it's almost like it's one of those. It's almost like insurance. You don't think you need it until you get into an accident.
Right.
And the brilliance of what she's done and the importance becomes so much more significant because, like, wow, you did this.
And look at the people that they've helped to get elected. That's the other part.
600 candidates and counting that they've put into office,
really
and it's really important. And there's a certain level of,
and it just goes to show the power of grassroots.
Yep, absolutely,
it sure does.
And the thing is, like, people that are in the scientific space, they're empirical, they're curious, they're inquisitive. They kind of, they're not overly emotional.
It's hard to trip them up because they go back to their baseline, which is the facts have been detailed and the data that they know is accurate.
And
facts and science.
Absolutely. And you need more of that now in the era of performative politics and conjecture and emotion.
And that's why it was hard to really stump Fauci, and kudos to his attorneys for telling him, take the fifth.
Take the fifth, man.
Take the fifth, man. People misunderstand that. And you said it, Rick, about what with the fifth? Come on, before we go to break. About somebody else?
Well, somebody else pled the fifth 440 plus times when they were testifying
in New York for fraud, right?
Yes, exactly.
That hurt people too.
Absolutely.
You want to say it was a victimless crime? No, it wasn't.
It's not.
Crime always has a victim.
There is.
Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. AM 950, our good friends at the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. We appreciate you being with us this morning. I'm Richard Chu, and sitting with my two good friends, Enrico Mowatt and Rick Kasprzak. We could do a lot of things, but we got to stay focused this morning, and we appreciate Shaughnessy Naughton hanging out with us this morning. Get with her organization, 314 Action. Another one of our superb leaders in the great state of Wisconsin, the current state senator from the District of 26, is Kelda Roys. Kelda's been with us before here on WCPT and specifically on Choose Views. She's also running for governor in our great state, our neighboring state of Wisconsin. Good morning, Senator Roys, and welcome back to Choose Views. Almost there? Okay. Yeah, it's getting there. All right. So I'm sorry. I thought that... Yeah, she'll be with us in a second. So Rick was saying during the break the question that he wanted to ask Shaughnessy. Rick, go for say what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was just curious how we're in working with her organization and advising candidates in their quest to seek office. How does she counter the unfortunate numbers of people who deny science and say it's fake and say it's not true and invoke conspiracy theories that they've heard? I would just be curious to know how she advises.
Yeah, that's a question I'll put to her. See, and maybe she'll have an off-air conversation that we can then re-air, because that's not something that just the folks in the science world that are running for politics have to deal with.
Yeah.
And you know that they do, but it's something that can help us other folk deal with knucklehead is.
I'd also be curious how they maintain their composure when, they've
got a thing
their
of facts
entire
right
thing
here.
is science and facts in front of them, and you're dealing with an opposing candidate or just
you got a book. You got a book of data results right here, thick, 3 inches thick.
Yeah.
Right.
Verifiable, empirical data, like you said, Rico. Yeah. And then you got someone who says, but I saw on YouTube.
And I'm going to coin the phrase here now. And so this is going to be trademark, people. Data deniers. That's like ever since COVID, the GOP, MAGA are just blatant data deniers. Say that fast 5 times. Yeah. And it's one of those things where there's so much about science, but also just data, whichever way you want to say it, that speaks to a lot of things that is as simple as the nose on your face. And people just deny it. Right. They're just adamant about that denial, and they will stand pat like.
And that they're so adamant that they like I saw a couple of interviews that you guys may have followed this young man. His name is Adam Mockler. You may have seen him on CNN.
He's amazing.
He's amazing.
He's awesome.
And he was interviewing some people around a couple of it wasn't science necessarily, but it was what was he talking about? Oh, redlining. And about discrimination. Yeah. And this woman, and these were folks that seemed to be someplace in the Northeast. They had the stereotypical sort of mid-Atlantic Northeastern accent, husband and wife. And they were just like livid about how right they were about racism doesn't exist. Yeah. He was trying to show them data or give them a category, redlining, that exists. And they were she went down the path of, well, there was a black man that lived in our building and he was the superintendent and he didn't have any family. And because we took care of him, that wasn't. And I was like, oh my Lord.
My gosh.
I'm waiting for the time at one of these hearings where someone on the left is going to just say, your feelings are not facts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then mic drop and just walk out.
Yeah.
That's a good T-shirt, Rico.
It is.
Cool. Let's take a moment and go to our good senator up in Wisconsin, Senator Kelda Royce. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you with us this morning. We know you're busy campaigning and being a senator. Kind of dual tracks right now. You're running for office, and you're still being a great senator from District 27 in Wisconsin. How you holding up? How's it going?
Well, it's going great, but I got to say, Wisconsin is at grave risk of Republicans taking over. Big money is dominating our politics, and the Republicans have put their thumb on the scale to try to get their preferred outcome in the primary, and they're going for a Republican trifecta. So we've got to work really, really hard and diligently to try to bend power.
Yeah, that can't happen. We have to be done having Republicans in any leadership role, particularly after what we saw, and I know you saw it, and we've been talking about it on the show this morning. What we saw, that hellscape yesterday of how they treated Dr. Fauci during that hearing. I mean, it was just flat out disgusting. And I know that you and your colleagues on the left there in Wisconsin have some observations about that. What did you say?
Well, I was pregnant during COVID, Richard, and when I was first elected to the Senate in 2020, my Republican colleagues refused to wear masks. They refused to say if they were vaccinated or not. And when I was finally able to get vaccinated during my pregnancy, that could have saved my life, because pregnant women were 17 times more likely to die of COVID because of the changes in your body and decreased lung capacity and decreased immune system response. So the fact that Dr. Fauci saved so many lives, he should be treated as an American hero. The things that he did for this country in what was one of the toughest times in our history, we all owe him a debt of gratitude.
Yeah, we were essentially at war with the virus that we didn't know enough about to be able to navigate it as effectively as we could right out of the gate. But I give kudos to you and other Democratic state senators who did everything you could in the time that we were in, because the federal government wasn't helping out. I mean, you remember this as an elected official, and we remember it as regular citizens, that the federal government, this is what cracks me up about the hypocrisy of Republicans in office on any level. They were blocking, you remember this, Senator Royce? They were blocking getting benefits.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And equipment, because Governor Pritzker here in Illinois had to, reach into the state's pockets to get the equipment that we needed, because what they were sending us was deficient. It was broken and all the rest. So, that was a time where we all stepped up as Democrats, and you particularly as an elected official, dealing with knuckleheads that were not your colleagues. I'm not going to let you don't get to call them your colleagues, because they weren't being your colleagues to see you pregnant. And they weren't going to wear a mask? Man, please. We would have been knocking over some tables, Senator Royce.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, and these are also the same Republicans in Wisconsin that took a 10-month vacation during COVID. Paid vacation, refused to meet. The least productive, I think, state legislature in the country was the Wisconsin Republicans. And, by all measures, we should be able to head towards Democratic control this fall, and yet Republicans are investing almost $20 million into trying to win a Republican trifecta this fall.
And unfortunately, this happened here in Illinois as well. A lot of the money that's coming into your races there, both at state level and a federal level, are dollars that are from outside of the state of Wisconsin. That's where I've said that, we can't get money out of politics right now, because we need money as Democrats to fight against the money that Republicans have in politics. We need to get the dirty money. We need to get the non-transparent money, this out-of-state money, and all the rest out of certainly our local elections. Talk a little bit about that, Senator Royce.
Well, I've been on this beat for a long time, Richard. I was one of the first candidates in the country back in 2011 when I was in the state assembly to say I'm not going to take corporate PAC money to fund my campaigns. And on those rare occasions, if I ever did, a corporation sent me a check, I just donate it. In those recent years, more and more candidates have started to adopt that position. But the truth is, dark money super PACs are often spending more money than the candidates themselves in these races. So the money in politics isn't even really the reported and regulated money that's coming into campaigns. And, my campaign is funded 93% by grassroots Wisconsin donors. I don't take money from APAC. I don't take money from corporations. But the Republican dark money super PAC is spending $3.5 million trying to elect my primary opponent, because they think that person will be easier for them to beat in the general and gives Republicans a path to complete and total power in Wisconsin.
Yeah, which we cannot have. We have said this in other states. Michigan's
cannot.
Similarly challenged in that regard, and many others are. Senator Royce, let's talk a little bit about this before we go to our break. From a platform standpoint, you've really been leaning in hard on the voucher, ending the private voucher of school funding, because it doesn't do anything to help, public education. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, public education is really the foundation of a democracy in our economy. I'm a parent and step-parent of 5 and a proud public school grad myself. And when you look at the results of 40 years of vouchers, you see that those schools perform no better, and they often actually perform worse than public schools. And the reason our public schools don't have the resources that they need to attract and retain our wonderful teachers and to give kids the opportunities they deserve for everything from music to advanced science, it's because of the lack of funding, because we're diverting billions of dollars every budget to voucher schools. Voucher schools that discriminate, that don't have to be transparent or meet the same standards. They can even use corporal punishment in these private schools, and that's unacceptable to me.
Yeah, touch my child without my permission, we got a problem. Senator Royce, we're going to take a little bit of a we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I know that Rick and Rico may have a question or so for you. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. And AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Minnesota Senator and candidate for governor, Kelda Royce. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Wisconsin State Senator Kelda Royce. I said Minnesota before we left. I meant to say Wisconsin. I know where we are. Senator Royce.
That's okay. You know, Minnesota and Wisconsin are friends.
We are. All three of us are. We're like, you can't get to the next without going through one of our three states. So
that's right.
We're all connected. So, Senator.
Just so you know, I'm the eldest. Wisconsin's the eldest daughter of the three.
Ooh, look at that. Wow. You didn't hold back. She went right there.
Like T.I., let them know.
She let them know.
That's good.
Senator Royce, one of my guests, Rick, is a Wisconsin native, but he has a question he wants to ask you with regard to Governor Evers.
Yeah, Senator Roy, thank you for being on the show today. It certainly has my interest because I have a vested, or I have a soft spot in my heart for anything Wisconsin. But I was curious to know, do you think that you are able to, ride some of the wave that from Tony Evers, from Governor Evers, because he's won twice the governorship. In a consecutive race. And, he's in the pit with all the lions. And I think he's done a really nice job, considering who he's working with. Do you think there's some, you can kind of ride that wave?
Well, I think that, the challenge that we're going to face in Wisconsin is so much national money coming in from right-wing interests, and we've got a MAGA rubber stamp candidate. But I will say, the success that we have had in Wisconsin as Democrats is because we have received support from Democratic candidates and causes and people who care from all over the country who recognize that Wisconsin's an important bellwether state, and if we want to protect democracy nationally, it's good to have Democrats in office. And the other thing I'll say is, Governor Evers really benefited from the amazing legislative candidates that were running in districts all over the state who did that on-the-ground organizing work to help prop up his numbers. So even candidates took on unwinnable races but increased the Democratic vote share. They are the ones who did the work and deserve the credit for the statewide victories that Wisconsin has enjoyed, that, of course, made Tony Evers governor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has been a very effective governor, particularly as Rick said in the den with the lions. And one of the things, this is where I go back to the importance of what you said, Senator, about the trifecta and keeping Republicans at bay even on the state level, is because Wisconsin. This is where I said this a few weeks ago. The Republicans federally are not doing their job, because if they wanted to put the brakes on Donald Trump, that given that they have the numbers in the House and the Senate, they could take the teeth out of what he's doing, not unlike what some of the legislators are doing in Wisconsin to Governor Evers. It just goes to show that the legislative branch of government has that power. The Republicans are not using it federally, but they sure as hell are using it in Wisconsin to slow things down. Am I off the rails here?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Republicans have blocked so many popular things, whether it's funding for public education, whether it's protecting abortion rights in our statute, or legalizing cannabis. I know Illinois and Minnesota love that Wisconsin keeps cannabis illegal because you guys get a lot of our revenue. But, we deserve to. My plan will help Wisconsinites get baked for babies because we're going to put that tax revenue into early childhood and paid family leave.
Oh, my gosh. We're getting big smiles here in the studio. Senator Roy's coming with the
Get
comment.
stoned for shorties. Let's do it.
Nice. That needs to be a slogan on a T-shirt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Your staff has been phenomenal, Senator Royce. Talk a little bit about how they have been so instrumental in the work that you've done as a senator, but also during this campaign time. Because I know you, like I said earlier, you're running two rails. Running for governor, but at the same time still operating in the role that you're currently elected to. Talk a little bit about your staff.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I just have incredible staff and interns and volunteers. Politics is a team sport, and you just can't accomplish anything on your own. And I have learned that over so many years of doing political organizing work as an activist, and certainly in office and as a candidate. And, the fact that we've got over 600 volunteers in every part of the state actually helping to build this campaign, and an amazing, dedicated staff of people both in my Senate office and on the campaign side, that, they are really the ones who are responsible for, the successes that we've had and the enthusiasm and momentum that we're building. We deserve nice things in Wisconsin. We deserve to have affordable health care and child care and housing and the best public education system. We deserve higher wages and collective bargaining rights for workers. And all of that, we can achieve it. Our democracy can deliver it if we have leaders and if we work together as a team to get folks in place who are willing to use power to get it done.
Without a doubt. She hails from Marshfield, Wisconsin. She's Senator Kelda Royce, and she's running for governor in the great state of Wisconsin. Tell us how folks can find you and get involved in your campaign if they choose to, Senator.
You can find me on social media at Kelda Royce, R-O-Y-S. My website has detailed policy plans, also keldaroyce.com. And I hope everyone who's in Wisconsin, or if you know people in Wisconsin, text them to make sure they go vote for me on August 11th and get involved in any way you can. You can give money, you can share our content, send me your ideas and questions. But let's do this. Wisconsin finally has a chance to go blue, and wouldn't it be great to have that big blue dot right in the center of the Midwest?
There you go.
Certainly would.
Thanks for being with us, Senator. We appreciate that. And guys, the primaries are August 11th, so make sure Wisconsin, y'all are out there taking care of your vote. Thanks for being with us, Senator. We'll talk with you soon, okay?
Great to be with you again, Richard. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye now. Okay, guys. Well, I think the three of us can kind of have some fun as we wrap up today. Here's the thing. There's folks that are running in Wisconsin and in Minnesota for governor and in Michigan. At the end of the day, I'm not here to pick any favorites. My favorite is that we got Democrats running. And,
absolutely.
Some of the candidates are funded differently on a state level, and Michigan is a good example. Haley Stevens is, it's been fully disclosed that she's taken some money from AIPAC. Other people have. And what I don't want to see is too many voices attacking candidates because they have taken money from where they've taken it. If they acknowledge it and they deal with it, I can roll with that.
Just address it.
Then fix the problem after you get to the, that's what has to happen. I believe. Right. Call me crazy. But to that end, we have to win no matter who is the ultimate candidate in the primaries going to the general election, if it's a U.S. House or Senate seat, and the governor's races, we have to keep them blue if they're blue. We're not looking for perfect candidates. We're not looking for this damn purity test and all this other garbage.
No.
What do you guys think?
No, I think getting a fourth state sweep like that, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota would be great.
Huge.
It would be huge, and it would be necessary.
Yeah. Kind of bring it back to the old days.
Bring it back to the old days.
I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, Rico, but I mean, being born and raised in Wisconsin, I remember when Wisconsin was one of the the most progressive states around
that's
when
exactly
I was
right.
growing up.
Yeah.
And it's truly very troubling to me when I look at the state of Wisconsin ever since Scott Walker.
Scott was just going to say that. I always go back to the when and the why of Scott Walker.
How? Yeah.
Scott Walker was the one that really sort of changed the direction. And a good example of when it's in the other directions, look at Michigan. I mean, I go back to Michigan so often because Governor Whitmer, Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, and then at one point having the AG's office, the Secretary of State's office as well. I mean, that's powerful stuff. And here in Illinois, imperfect as it may be, and like Anusha said about what the legislature needs to do a little bit better, but when we're in control, we get more stuff done that benefits more people. And was it you that said, asked the question, how many Democrats have done something that have caused you, legislatively or benefit-wise, less than by comparison to Republicans, and it's not even a contest.
And I think something that you said earlier about them not being perfect candidates, compared to what the GOP is putting, the slop that they're putting out.
Slop's a good word.
I call them a slop. Like, y'all don't need to be perfect. Just be consistent. That's all you got to be. You don't have to be perfect.
What gives me a little hope with respect to Wisconsin electing a Democratic governor is, if you just think back in the last year or two, there were two Supreme Court justices that won that removed that control by the Republicans at the Supreme Court level.
Yeah,
it's big. So
that's another reason why having them, because what they did is they gave the governor, because see, the state, the citizens of Wisconsin said, Governor Evers, we want you to go and do this. The legislature got in, and these punks said, nope.
We're not going to let you do it.
The state Supreme Court said, nah. And that's why having Democrats in they let the people talk.
That's right.
Because the people elected Governor Evers.
And you know where people are really going to start talking? Those premium notices are going to be coming out. It's coming out in September.
Yes.
People are going to get notified about their premiums for Medicare in terms of, hey, this is a situation where you're going to be paying more. And these primaries, and then also the elections in November. Yeah. That's a big issue, and those folks need to take a look at their premium, see what the GOP has done, see what the right has done, and say, you know what? I think I need to maybe pivot. Or if I'm someone that didn't vote and didn't participate, I got to cast a vote because my aunt, my mother, my grandmother, my brother, my sister, their premiums are going up, or whoever's on Medicaid. So,
guys, we got to go, but I wanted to give you opportunity to say something about from Batman. But Rick and Rico, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. The Ruckus, that's who we are.
Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. Stay tuned for Joan Esposito. Stay tuned for Patty Vasquez later on today. We're out.